thanks, Nate. Appreciate it. And, as part of the introduction, Colonel Charles Brisbois, as he said, I go by BB. And I do work in the Air Force Warfighter Integration capability. And for those of you that are unfamiliar, that's a big acronym. And the idea was that our Chief of Staff needed an organization that was laser focused on the future and how we regain our competitive advantage and extend that competitive advantage against people that are using technologies to cut into it, so that we still have the ability to project air power at a place and time of our choosing, right? And so AFWERX was designed in order to be kind of a think tank, if you will, for him about the future force design and how you match that theory of victory or competition with your capability development. My job in particular is to scout and scan across all of the FFRDCs, the labs, the academia, and most importantly, industry, to find capabilities and technologies that are going to move the needle in warfare. Things that aren't in the Air Force right now, but that we believe are going to make a huge difference or change in society. And if it changes society, then it's going to change warfare, right? And so I think, when I got the opportunity to work with AFWERX and present what we're in right now, which was the Reimagining Energy Challenge, the first thing that came to mind for us in my group, my team of about 15, was energy is going to be hugely important to the Department of Defense. It is already, right? But it only becomes more so as we look out into 2035 and beyond. And why is that? It's because our enemies have looked at how the United States goes to war, right? And our traditional American way of war is that we build up massive amounts of men and material. And when we're absolutely sure that we have dominance in every aspect, then we start our campaign, right? And so they've studied that, and they've said, well, the simple way to prevent that from happening is just to ensure that they can't build up those mountains of men and material. And the most vulnerable material we have is the fuels that we move to generate our combat power, right? We call it POL, petroleum storage and movement around the theater. And it's extremely vulnerable, easy to interdict, easy to target in multiple ways, and it's extremely logistics intensive. And so when, no matter where we are looking at the theaters, they're all away games, right? And so everything we've got to do, we've got to move large, again, amounts of material, and then we've got to sustain that for combat operations. And so when you start talking about energy and how we can reimagine it, there's almost nothing that could be more important to the Department of Defense and to the Air Force, who is, represents 60% of the Department of Defense's energy usage, right? And so as we looked at this, I'll go back over some of what Nate said a few minutes ago. We need something that's a clear vision, something that ignites the imagination. And that's really what I'm looking for if we kick off this prime, is taking some of the golden nuggets that we got from the energy challenge that we just ran, and bringing those out. And we found some really, really interesting ones in the areas of production. There's hydrogen fuel cells, and the work that's happening in hydrogen right now, you could argue, is really going to change society. It's going to change our relationship with how we power things. The same can be said with wind technology. Heat recovery were really interesting things that can be done there. And we've even gotten some proposals on saltwater, getting energy out of saltwater. And most of the places that we're looking at operating on are typically near the oceans. And so in the production realm, there's quite a few areas. Micronuclear reactors would be another one. But there's a lot of area where industry has already come in and started to disrupt our old ways of thinking about energy, and we want to partner, find the best of those, and really determine which ones again have the military utility, which I've kind of explained, and then the commercial value, right, and how it has that dual use potential to really give the United States a competitive advantage, both militarily and economically. And so again, I talked a little bit about production, which was the first one that we talked about. And then we have transmission. Once you produce it, you've still got to get it to the users in some form. And again, I'm really, really interested in some of the things that were submitted to us on power beaming. The idea that you can wirelessly beam power from node to node with very little loss is really intriguing. Inductive power, I know a lot of that has been looked at in industry, but we're getting to a point where I think technology is kind of caught up with some of that hype, and we're going to be able to scale that. And then obviously advances in solar transmission, or the ability to transmit using energy waves, again, wirelessly. The final one, the area that we have, and it looks like I've got about a minute left on my 8 minutes, was the storage area. So again, production, transmission, and then storage. And storage, I think, is where we're going to get the largest bang for the buck. Lithium ion has massive problems when used in a military context. It's extremely dirty, right? Disposing of lithium ion is dirty. It has thermal runaway problems, and the supply chain of lithium ion batteries largely runs through our competitors, right? And so we've got to break away from that. And so there's new chemistries, and those new chemistries give us greater density and power density inside the batteries, and potentially faster charging, which is going to be the real technology breakthrough that's going to make military utility, right? The ability to charge in something relatively similar to filling it up with gasoline or other fuels. That kind of time frame, if we get that, then I think we're going to be onto something that has both high military utility and commercial utility. Solid state batteries, another area where I think we are really interested. And then finally, I'll talk a little bit about structural batteries. If you were on the call 2 days ago with the VCs, I brought this up, and in the VCs' minds, it wasn't ready for prime time, but I think this is exactly where the Department of Defense could come in and potentially bring some funding and further on some research that has the potential to really make a big difference. And I know some of the larger automotive industry is already looking at it. The European Union is looking at it. So again, I think there's a lot of potential in structural batteries. And with that, I think my 8 minutes is up. I will pass it back over for questions.